When you started learning about all sorts of these biases, did you suddenly become more aware of what you were doing when you were in these situations?
Yes, that's true. So the more you know it, the more you realize when they happen. And I think touching this, uh, it it brings something to my mind that I haven't thought about is why don't we teach customers about their biases? And in order, okay, when we're not there, then they can take care of themselves in order to not take those wrong decisions.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of CX Insider. Today we talk to Andrei Calin, Head of Customer Experience at BCR, the commercial bank of Romania. In this episode we dive into the consumer psychology behind banking and explore how it's being utilised in Romania. Now enjoy the episode, and if you do, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel for access to the best content that CX Insider has to offer. By the way, this podcast is brought to you by ACF Technologies, global leaders in customer experience management solutions.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming on our podcast. We usually start with an introduction, so would you mind to give us an intro of who you are and what you do, your hobbies, your background?
Sure. Let me start with the professional part, let's say. So right now I'm leading the customer experience department in BCR Bank in Romania. BCR is actually, because it's more specific. So BCR is actually a universal bank in Romania. It's second largest bank in Romania. And when I say I lead the team, the customer experience department, I mean that I create the customer experience strategy and also support my teams for executing it, but with the help of a lot of colleagues within the bank. My background and my career is all related to customer focus. I've been working in customer care. I've been, creating customer experience team and strategies. I've worked also in the pre-sales, so also direct communication with customers. Then I had both execution roles and also management roles, leading teams. I've been lucky, actually. Most of the time, I'm telling a story that I've been very lucky when I was, because I have more than 15 years in customer related jobs. So this happened, I think, when I was 21. I had a opportunity. I was lucky enough to work in the US, and I was working at a front desk in a hotel. And actually, those 3 months in the front desk, I think I got the customer bug there. There's a very important customer service culture in the US. So I brought this home with me, and I stay with it, and I developed it through my professional years. And also personally, I must say that I take my dad role very seriously. I'm a proud father of almost 5 years old twins. And yeah, and I'm very lucky also to have a super supportive wife, which actually, as a funny note, works also in a customer experience role. So our friends are actually laughing, and they're saying that we are customer experience family or CX family. And I was thinking that during this 5 years since we got the kids, I think my kids heard customer experience around the house, these words expressed, I think, more than any other kids. So it's a funny note. Also, I like to jog in the morning. It helps me actually. It helps me bring up some new solutions and ideas for my challenges, and that motivates me actually. And I read online business articles. I also like traveling now a lot with the family. So that's my short introduction. I don't know how short was it.
Yeah, no, it's nice. When you said you have 5-year-old twins, I thought you were gonna say 5 kids, and I was like, oh wow.
No, 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 not five. Two, it's enough, I think.
Yeah.
And you have time to run in the morning, huh?
Yes, I do now because actually, this why? If you would have asked me like 6 years ago if I was able to wake up at 6 a.m. and then start running, I would say that you're crazy. I'll never do that. But I learned that because one of them it's very early riser, so I had to wake up early, and that actually was very beneficial for me, and I really appreciate that happening to me because I
That's
really
brilliant. Yeah.
enjoy, yeah, I really enjoy waking up in the morning now. I think it's a great time. It's very quiet. You get time for yourself a lot, and everything's quiet around, and I really appreciate that.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a rapid shift towards digitalisation across all industries and especially banking. However, there's a considerable number of customers who actively avoid online banking. How has the pandemic affected these behaviours in Romania?
Yeah, so of course that a lot changed during the last 2 years. I think everything changed. You feel like everything changed during the last 2 years. I think also the customer might feel that. So, there's a lot of things happening to them from from different sides, both political as you were seeing now, and the pandemic, but also from their suppliers, or from their interactions with suppliers. What happened a lot, of course, and it's obvious, as you were saying, during the pandemic we had this acceleration in the digital way of servicing, or proposing products and servicing to customer. This came actually from the demand from customers. This is what I feel, and actually businesses have tried to step up and to fulfill this demand. So this led to this acceleration in online, digital, and so on and so forth. But what I'm seeing now is like most things, when you get a lot of something in a very short period of time, at one point you get saturated about it. Okay, so even sweets, if you eat a lot in a very short period of time, you tend not to want to eat in the next time. So I think this is what's happening now, because there was a lot of digital and a lot of online during those 2 years. Customers are beginning to evaluate these interactions from, I'd like to say, from some kind of a sieve of value and maybe opportunity. So they're asking themselves now, because they have options. So they're asking, okay, do I really need this online or digital interaction, or do I really find the value in this digital and online interactions, or do I find value in, for example, human interactions? So this is what I feel that it's happening now with the customers, and this digital overload that they've been feeling in the past 2 years. So now they're looking to see actually where's the value in the interaction, and then we're seeing that in our country also. People wanting to have more interactions in branch with the face to face. But in the meantime, I think they're doing this evaluation and saying, for example, I'm convinced that most of the customer won't go to branch now to, I don't know, to reissue their PIN number for the card, because this is something that I call hygiene, experience. You don't need a person to give you that number. You can always get it online. This means that now they're keeping the interactions, the human interactions, which bring them more value. For example, for more sophisticated product, more complex product, where actually a person can personalize and can advise you better at the moment than an application or an online interaction. Another thing that I'm seeing after the pandemic, and also it's related to the current situation, is customer being more attentive, and also businesses are looking at this right now, about what they're paying, the costs that they're paying, and the fees, for example, in our case, that they're paying for services and products. Because the inflation at the moment, then customers are paying more attention to what are they getting for the prices that they're paying. And I'm trying to say that the banking industry must be very careful to that. Why is that? Is because some costs and some prices of the financial products are not that easy to understand. So when you position, for example, a cost that it's very low, and I don't think that's applicable only to banking, but to most of the products and services. When you position a front cost or a front price very low, then the customer needs to and has to go a bit deeper to see exactly what's the value behind that low cost. And if they're not really future costs that can actually have a bigger impact than a higher cost at the moment. So this focus on low cost and prices goes with a bit of concern from both customers, but also from banking, making sure that they're transparent with the fees and costs for their products. There's an interesting bias or information regarding that people are very attentive to only the information that they're seeing. There's a bias described in Daniel Kahneman's book in Thinking Fast and Slow, which is called "What You See Is All There Is." And basically, this is what we're doing. Our mind cannot process a lot of information at the same time. So we're believing that what we're seeing is the perfect thing, and then everything that there is about that, and we're not doing a lot of research behind. And we really need to be careful about this way of customers reacting to prices.
Dealing with the oversaturation of digital services that customers have experienced sounds like a big challenge. In a way, people desiring physical interaction is a good thing, but when the bank is trying to promote the use of digital, it can also be a hindrance. How can you strike the right balance between the two, and what does Andrei look for in doing so?
We as customer experience professionals are looking a lot from a customer perspective. So you might hear me saying that from my point of view as a customer, because I am also a banking customer. So from my point of view as a customer, I would and what we're trying to do also is to do exactly what I was saying earlier. So see exactly what's the value of the digital and what's the value of human interactions, and try to actually push the value rather than the product. Because I tend to say that digital by itself or online by itself, they don't sell. Customers don't want digital or don't want an app. They just want to fulfill their goals, in our case financial goals, in a efficient, value added way. So we need to see exactly what are they finding value in digital, and how can we provide actually value in digital, and what's the value that we can provide in branches. And there's been a lot of discussions, not only now, but since all the digitalization started in banks, that what's going to happen with branches. And I think this is what's going to happen. You don't give the customer the PIN in branch anymore, but you give it digitally. If the customer lost the PIN, then they can reissue it in the digital. That's the value that the digital brings. Whereas at the moment, and I'm sure that it's not going to be sooner in digital, at the moment, if you'd like to, for example, go and invest your money, then it's a lot easier, and not easier necessarily, but there's a lot more value in talking to a financial expert, because it's in one place, let's say, a lot of knowledge in one place, rather than you investing, not losing, but investing your time in understanding a lot of specific information. So coming back to your question, I think that's what we're trying to do at the moment. Keep what it's important and valuable for a customer, and when I say in the digital, and when I say valuable in the digital, means fast, easy, hygiene things, because the more complex you bring in digital, the more harder and the more complex will be for customer to go through digital. And we don't want to be hard, we want to be easy. That's the idea. And if you want to have more more meaningful and more important discussions, that you can always go to the branch.
Now, it seems value can be found in both digital and physical banking experiences, but there are a lot of services that thrive if the customer seeks them out online. For example, processes like bank transfers and opening an account are far more efficient digitally. What does Andrei think is the reason for this reluctance to switch, and what could banks do to encourage the preference for online banking more effectively?
If I had the right answer for that, I'm sure that everybody would pay me a lot of money to find it. I don't think actually there's the right answer. So I'm going to give you the answer that we're trying. What we are doing, actually, not only trying to get those people to use more digital, because we believe also that it brings more value to them. But before that, I think it's also important to see the context. So we are still after 30 something years after the communism. So we're still a country that has people which are very used to cash, for example. So we still have a lot of cash payments in the society. That's one context. And the other thing is that it depends. We are as a bank very involved into the financial education of the population. So we're still a bit behind with the financial literacy and education in the country. I think these are the reasons why people haven't, or we don't have a very high acceptance or willing to use a lot of digital when it comes to banking. But we know the problems, and we are trying to find solutions for that. And what we've been seeing that it's working really well, actually, and I found it funny when I heard about it, is that people are going into the branch, and we've taught, and we've given the tools to the branch representatives to help the customer with their own device. So what's happening is that a customer comes to the branch, wants to do something, which is actually in digital, it can be done in the app or online or digitally. And it's talking to a representative, and the representative says, okay, open up your phone, install this app if he doesn't have it installed, or she doesn't have it installed, and look how you can do it online with me here. If the customer has the app, then we're showing, okay, you can do that on your, thanks for coming, we can help you with that. If you can open up your app, and there's the menu here, and this is those 2-3 clicks that you can do it for yourself. So what we're doing in actually it's not using, but we've taught the the bank representative to help customers use the digital. And I think it's really important with the customer device. So next time when he's at home, he has to decide if he has the same problem or a similar one. Do I need to go to the branch and someone show me something, or at least I can try it myself here, a couple of times. If it's not working, I'm going back to the branch. So we're doing that. We're actually starting to remove the processes from branch, which can be done digitally. So customers can come to the branch for digital processes, but there's not an option. It can either be done by a representative or by the customers. They're always going to be done by the customer because it's available in the app. So this helped a lot, actually, too. And then you mentioned earlier if it's a lack of trust. And I think there's also this. So customers don't trust not necessarily banks. There's also this in general, but this is less than a couple of years ago. But customers don't yet have this trust in using digital with their finances, or not that high of a trust. So we're trying to build that, to see that there's nothing wrong. They cannot do something wrong there that can't be fixed, for example. So there's also this empowerment of the customer. I think that's the best solution from my point of view, and I've seen that it's working. Another solution, and it's not trying to change customer behavior And this is also related to what you were mentioning. It's also customer behavior, of course, that it's very hard to change our behaviors. And personally, I think every one of us knows that in kind of a context. What we're trying to do is not change completely the habit. So it's not like either in the branch or online. It's we're trying to push a bit. So for example, okay, just open up the app now, and this is the first step. We're trying to build steps for the customers, and we've also built that, for example, in an onboarding phase. You need to use all the features now. I know we have a lot, but this is the most important one, the most used by our customers. And this is also related to some social validation, that I'm not the only one using using your app. There's a lot of customers using that, and this is what they're doing. The first thing that they're installing the app. What I'm trying to say is that we're gently, and I think that's important, we're gently trying to make customers use the app. Otherwise, I don't think it's working.
Studying how people behave can be the key to unlocking what they truly want and how they feel. And this is closely linked to our biases. But what exactly are consumer biases, and how are they relevant to banking?
For a couple of years, I've been very passionate about studying this phenomenon, this psychology, the human psychology, because actually consumer biases are human decision-making errors in purchasing context. So we're doing the same errors as consumers, both as humans, decision-making errors. Basically, this is related to the fact that surprise, we're not robots. Okay, so we have feelings. We tend to believe most of the time that we are most of the time rational, and we think deeply, but it's not happening most of the time. So because we can't really separate our emotions for our decisions, in financial industry, it happens the same in the financial products. And if we're thinking about being fully rational and fully data driven, I think that's only for AI and for robots. And what I've seen is also, despite good intentions, actually, and again, you can analyze that, and this is how I started, by analyzing myself in a normal or other context. Despite all our good intentions, we often make less than optimal financial choices. And I have some examples for you if you'd like to. This comes in various reasons most of the time, because we have a lot of things on our mind, and it's not really the most important thing to understand a financial product. And there's another thing that I'm trying to build inside our organization at the moment, is that customers have actually goals and needs, desires. They don't actually, and they want to fulfill them with different solutions. They don't actually start from thinking, they don't start thinking from a financial product to the goal, but rather the goal, and then they find that some of the solutions are related to financial products. And yes, I have some examples of how we're not very rational when we're doing decisions. The best ones are related to savings, and I think they're very common to most of us. And for example, it's a bias that people are. It's called present bias, or they prioritize today over tomorrow. And what this means is that because we do that sometimes, we prioritize today's needs and desires over tomorrow's, and this means that although we know that tomorrow is better to save for tomorrow, we don't do that. And that's because it seems that's an effort, and most of the time it's because we have difficulty in visualizing the future. There's been tests and studies that when you show a picture, when a bank, for example, shows a picture of yourself the retirement, that the chances are for you to save more for a long time. There's been studies doing that. So the idea that we can't really visualize all the time for long-term investment, it's not doing us very good. And there's another thing that we prefer, of course, that the satisfaction at the moment rather than the future savings, even though we know that it's better for us to save for the future. Another thing that, or in another product that we're looking at to see how customers are influenced by this biases and these errors is insurances. We also have insurances that we sell, also in related to loans. So I think there's an interesting. We really had this. I don't call it experiment because we put it in production. So it was really interesting because we only we position or we sell an insurance, an income insurance policy when you get a loan digitally, fully digital. So what we've done is, and when you get this insurance, then you get also a discount in the interest rate of the loan. So customers haven't been that willing to take this insurance, although it's important, especially for these days, this income protection insurance. So what we've been trying is actually change the way the customer take the decision, the buttons. And we said, instead of I don't want this insurance, then we changed it to I don't want this insurance and I'm okay to lose those 0.5% of the interest. We actually changed only the text, and we've been doing that because we know that people are loss averse, so they hate losing an amount. They hate more losing an amount rather than they're happy winning or getting the same amount. So basically, we try to show them that they're losing this 0.5, I don't know, 1%, whatever it is, that they can get if they're not getting this insurance. And actually, we've seen increases like from with I think, let me just calculate from my mind, but it was like 20-30% increase in the total acceptance of taking that insurance. And this was a great use case internally to show that actually this focus on behavioral science and understanding how customers take decisions, it's good, and especially in financial institution is good if you're trying, again, but this is really important, if you're trying to improve the customer's well-being and financial health, so with the products. So if this is the objective, then I think that's really important to have this skill in the organization, because this very small changes can have a huge impact in customers' well-being in the end. So we have more customers who are protected against any problems that they have with their salaries.
So, the study of consumer behaviour can truly help banks understand the people they serve and therefore co-create more value. However, most banks do not effectively incorporate the research of consumer psychology, at least as well as they could. How does Andrei think this situation might be improved?
Whenever I'm passionate about it, I'm trying to convince others that it's a good thing. And it really works when you're passionate about it because it's easier to convince people. And first of all, I really think this is working, and we have the proof now internally with this small test that we've done, which is working. And we're actually looking at other types of convincing people to do things that are financially healthy for them. But regarding to how I see this working in or more used in the customer experience domain, or honestly, if you ask me, I don't even want to be used in customer experience necessarily. I want to be used more in when you build products and services and you want to do good for your customers. I think this is important. Why I think it's related to the customer experience is first of all, and I was saying earlier that in general, customers want to fulfill their goals. So customer experience is actually about improving the customer's journeys to fulfill their goals. So if your goal is to save more, then my role as a customer experience expert is to design your journey to be as easier, as faster, as seamless for you to save more and to fulfill your goals with the savings. So actually, this is what it does. Using behavioral economics and then studies in customer experience can help us help customers fulfill their financial goals. Yes, and I also think that, but I'm biased, that that in the world of financial services, employing this discipline, it has a lot of potential and a lot of impact, because we're talking about customers' future, customers, well-being, in terms of financial importance. So I think this is really important, especially in banks and financial institutions. There's another thing why I think in banks it's important is that financial products are unattractive, are complex, and sometimes difficult to purchase. So in order to, and although most of the products are doing good to customers because they're fulfilling their goals, and if they're using it correctly, then they have, that it's a good impact. In short, the products are boring, and therefore customers, okay, they take shortcuts, mental shortcuts, to get rid of this. So I'll go fast, I don't know how to evaluate the products, I don't understand them, so I'm very prone to making wrong decisions. That's why it's important to reduce these situations where customers take wrong decisions with their financial products. And yes, as a way to embed the skills, if you're working in an agile environment, then you can do it as a skill in any squad or any tribe or whatever you're organized. Okay, so whenever you build something for the customers, it can be even a communication. Then someone with this skill should be there to give a look and say, okay, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to convince the customer? Are we trying to make him read? Are we trying to do an action? What are we trying to do with this product, service, or communication? And starting with that, look for how you can actually fulfill your goal with that in order to help customer fulfill their goals.
I wanted to ask a question regarding what you were saying before about the biases. When you started learning about all sorts of these biases, did you suddenly become more aware of what you were doing when you were in these situations?
Yes, that's true. So the more you know it, the more you realize when they happen. And I think, touching this, uh, it brings something to my mind that I haven't thought about, is why don't we teach customers about their biases? And, in order, okay, when we're not there, then they can take care of themselves in order to not take those wrong decisions. So, yeah, but definitely, whenever you learn something, especially that you see it on yourself, you started both to see them when you're doing it, and that's the first step in correcting, identifying, and then, of course, taking measures if you'd like to. Otherwise, I'm not saying you should change anything, you should change everything, but sometimes we know we are wrong, but we still do it. I mean, yeah, I've saved so much. I haven't eaten, for 2 weeks something sweet. Okay, I know this is wrong, but I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah, or smoke, or things like smoking, or things like that. Yeah,
Exactly.
we
So
always do things that we know
it's
that
the
are wrong.
same
Yeah.
with financial. Okay, I've been saving it, right? I haven't been a big spender for the past, and that's also bias, by the way. I haven't been spending for the last 2 weeks, or I've been I've been paying a lot of attention with my spendings. Okay, I really like this pair of shoes. That's it.
Consumer research creates data, and data analysis leads to greater understanding. Therefore, what role can data play in improving customer experiences in banking specifically, and how?
I think data is crucial to customer experience. If there was no data, there was no customer experience. And because why obviously, it's because you don't know what to improve. Actually, customer experience is, again, this way of looking at the customer journey and trying to make it better for the customers to fulfill their goals. If you don't know how that journey is, what's the perception of the customer on that journey, then you don't know what to improve, what to manage. if you don't have data. And there's two ways, I guess, in which we look at data. So there's data that show us the current situation. So, like I was saying, we look at the customer's perception through different ways. Surveying, asking them interviews. We look at the customer behavior that shows the current situation, their spending, what the channels they use. So we're looking at data to show us what's happening, what's the status, what's the current, what's the as is, what we're calling it. And this guides us, this gives us some information on where exactly to take action. Why I think it's really important to understand where to take action is because customer experience is an under budgeted zone or area within companies in general. So this means that we don't have all the budget in the world. This means, of course, that we have to prioritize. And that's where data can also help you prioritize the actions that you take for the customers. I like to say that, I don't want to improve all the experience for the customers. I just want to improve the touch points or the interactions where we tell the customers that we bring the most value. What I'm trying to say is that, and we're coming back to the value, closing the circle. So what I'm trying to say is that if we're saying that we want customers to use to have a great digital experience, that this is where I'll invest my resources in customer experience, or most of my resources. I don't want to have, the best ATM experience. I just want their ATM experience to be good enough, but I want their digital experience to be the best. So that's what I'm trying to say with prioritizing in customer experience. I think you should prioritize based on data and your brand promises. I like to say brand experiences. You should have brand experiences, otherwise you wouldn't differentiate with other competitors. So this is how data can help us. First of all, assess what's the situation from both data perspectives, customer customer perceived way, and also for where to focus your actions.
Generally, I think like listening, hearing you saying all of this, and like your focus, and when it comes to data and how to utilize it. When I've been reading about banks and customer expectations, there's a common theme that there is a big difference in what banks and banking executives are hoping and looking to deliver in the next coming years, and what customers actually expect. Uh, why do you think it is that on a global level when it comes to the banking industry?
In general, I think, and also from the delivery point of view, but also from the expectations. So I've been reading also some articles, some studies saying that, the board believes that they offer a great experience, whereas the perception of customer is very low, when it comes to experience. I think that's because there's a disconnection between the board, the C level, and the customer. So there's no direct connection there. So there's a lot of layers from the customer to the board. That's why the perception is different. I'm seeing it in everyday situation, not necessarily in banking, that think about it. If you were a board member, would you or would you have the same experience as a regular customer with your products and the services? Not really. Only if you'd like to. But sometimes if you need something, you know who to call to solve your problem. If you like a product, you don't go to the branch, or you don't open the app, or maybe you open the app, but maybe you ask someone from your organization to help you with that product. So I think that's where the disconnection happens, because most of the senior leaders are not sometimes going into the real customer's shoes, and they don't build those effective way of understanding the customer's experience as a customer experience representative, as a frontline representative. So they know better. Actually, they know better than us. The ones that know better the customers and their perception, their experience, are the ones that are in direct contact with the customers. That's the ones that they know a lot better. And why is because, we have our surveys and we ask customers, but there's a different thing when you observe, when you interact with the customer, and when you ask them. There's a different insight that you get when you interact with them and when you ask them about that. So, they already have a perception. They answer in different biases. So yes, so I think that's the problem, because there's no direct connection frequently. I'm not saying that the CEOs should stand in the front line all the time, but there should be a lot more direct connection with customers, or raw data rather. So, okay, listening to calls and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that was my question. Calling it raw data, I think the answer is yes. It's like the front line is the most difficult place to collect data at the same time,
Yes,
and to quantify it and put it in a depository and actually analyze it.
yes, it's true, because it's in their head and in their heart. It's not in a system.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Why not subscribe to our YouTube channel for access to full-length videos, clips of chapters, and also YouTube shorts for our best moments. If you want to join our growing community of thought leaders, head over to LinkedIn and follow us at CX Insider Podcast to stay updated. Thanks again, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. But for now, enjoy our rapid-fire questions. By the way, this podcast has been brought to you by ACF Technologies, global leaders in customer experience management solutions.
What is your favorite psychology book?
Definitely Thinking Fast and Slow.
Would you ever live anywhere besides where you live now?
Yes.
Where?
I really love Amsterdam. We have a lot of friends there. And also I like now Vienna.
Oh, I love Vienna. It's my favorite city in Europe.
Yes, for the family part, though, let's say until the kids are 18. If you ask me after that, I would go in more exotic places like, I don't know, Bali, Indonesia, and things like that.
What scares you?
What scares me? I think sometimes myself, honestly.
Interesting answer.
Yes.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
Weirdest. Unfortunately, I have a saying that if someone ate that before me, then it's okay. So it's hard for me to remember something, but I honestly think I've eaten some cockroaches at one point, at one event, which I remember. But again, I try everything actually. If someone ate it before me and didn't have a problem, I'll eat it.
Okay. And we always ask this question. If you could interview anyone, who would that be?
I think Steve Jobs, honestly. I know it's an answer everybody gives that, but it's been really inspiring for me in this customer experience world that I'm living in.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And my last question, actually, it's a bit of a personal question. If you could recommend it to someone who is interested in studying consumer behavior and consumer psychology, where would you recommend them to start?
I think with online articles, I think they're great for people to start looking at online articles. Following on LinkedIn, I've discovered that there's a lot I didn't even know until I've studied a bit more. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that you can follow, and the content there, it's a lot easier to digest, at least at the beginning. So maybe LinkedIn first, and some online articles, and then go to books.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you also.